Я вітаю всіх, хто приєднався.
Welcome everybody who joined us. Media Center Ukraine to Current Forum continues its work. And right now in our studio we have Olena Kondratiuk, Deputy Chairman of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Ms. Kondratiuk, we all seen your speech in Polish Sejm. Could you please tell us about, could you please tell us about your trip to Baltic countries? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Indeed, we have had very strong working visit to Baltic countries. We have traveled 5,000 kilometers with our delegation across Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. Actually, it was a visit of gratitude because we wanted to thank those countries for their ongoing support of Ukraine in economic, humanitarian and political aspects. For this great contribution those three countries have made to support Ukraine on the global scale. To be honest, I remember very well the visit of all those speakers of their parliaments in the very first days of the war. It was an act of solidarity to show us that we are not alone. And actually, this visit had five big components, five big issues that we raised during the negotiations. First of all, it's about appreciation for the political support based on statements made by parliaments of those three countries. First of all, about the statements on prevention of genocide, condemning the actions by the Russian Federation. And those have been the first three countries who have openly said that Russia is a terrorist country. So appropriately, of course, we have been very thankful, and we kept saying that we need offensive weapons. And the first type of, and Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia provided some first supplies of weapons even before the invasion, and maybe due to that supply, Ukraine has been able and Kyiv has been able to resist, to hold the line during the very first days of invasion. The second thing that we discussed was about Ukraine's candidacy to join the European Union. And here the position of those three countries has been very important because they have been good advocates. They made that way before us, and they understand all those issues to be raised and resolved. Since we have complied with all preconditions for candidacy for the European Union. You know, this is a very relevant, most relevant issue for Ukraine, and in the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine there has been a working group to implement that candidacy plan for the European Union. More to it, we have developed a detailed plan for visits by the leadership of Verkhovna Rada, leadership of specialized committees and friendship groups to treat this issue in a proper way. And of course we coordinate with the presidential office, with the government. We have developed clear criteria who should travel where and how to persuade those countries who have still some doubt about that. And of course Baltic countries have a very big role here because their advocacy, especially among the Nordic countries, is very important. The third matter that we discussed is also very important. Of course, it's about creation of the international tribunal, and it's about documenting all those crimes committed by the Russian Federation in Ukraine. So documenting those crimes, work of experts, and Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania have already provided us with first 14 experts, speeding up all procedures wherever possible. And of course it's about justice. It's about justice and about liability for all those crimes committed in Ukraine. The fourth big component is, of course, humanitarian assistance, and we thank those countries because they have accommodated more than 120,000 of Ukrainians. We have visited a lot of humanitarian centers. We have seen where our people have been living, 90% of women and children who have been looking for some shelter, for some accommodation. We have seen those conditions, and in all those three countries there have been very strong policies of social security, of medical assistance, of educational process. More to it. Now we are saying that the Baltic countries, like many countries of the European Union, have accommodated our Ukrainians like their own people. It's very important to learn from that experience, and I think that our Ukrainians who have seen how the social security system works, how the medical healthcare system works, how the education works, for them it's also, it's a big push for our country towards improving those systems in our country, because this is a good model example for people when they see how institutions work in the European Union, including executive branch. Of course, a big part has been about restoration, recovery of Ukraine. And here it's very nice to see, that we have run a lot of discussions even with prime ministers and with the presidents, whereby those countries are ready and willing to provide assistance. More to it, that assistance can be in different forms, in forms of subsidies. It can be about national level participation, gathering donor help. It's very nice to see that Estonia has already decided to help Zhytomyr Oblast. Lithuania is now deciding to select some territory to help. We spoke with the speaker in Latvia, and it's very nice to see that, that word bucha means kissing in Latvian, and they said that we want to choose that bucha, which suffered a lot, and to support that town. So these have been five components, five say fingers, so to say, to create this Ukrainian fist. We have been to Baltic countries, and now our leadership of the parliament will and leaders of committees and factions groups will visit many countries, Poland and others. So this is like a big force of interparliamentary operations to move to these European Union countries. Speaking about recognition of genocide, what will be the consequences of such resolutions? Why it's important for us? First of all, it's about political documenting, recording of those crimes. More to it, that condemnation. We said that in the future, political statements come first. It's about initiative of those countries, because we understand that on the global scale and the European Union, there are no small or big countries. Every country's vote, each country's vote is very important. And we hope to see such initiatives also supported by other countries, because the broader we are talking about it, the broader we documented, the lower the chances of getting back to that system where the global security is broken. We understand that those are interrelated things which should also be considered by UN Security Council. Speaking about humanitarian issues, what are the conditions of our citizens' accommodation under temporary protection in Baltic countries? I'll repeat again that Baltic countries have undertaken the responsibility, have accommodated so many citizens they could accommodate. Some of them received 20,000, and the total it's about 120,000 of our citizens. They have been accommodated in different regions, and the bad thing to see is that, this is the first time ever in the history of the European Union when our citizens are not considered refugees. They are considered just under temporary protection. It means that there is no standard procedure for refugees when in 6 or 9 months you are provided that legal status. Now we are talking about the temporary shelter, temporary protection, which means that all those citizens, all those Ukrainians who have been in the territory of the European Union actually enjoy the same conditions as their own citizens, starting from accommodation, from residence. You don't see those tent camps. So actually all those citizens of Ukraine are accommodated either in families or in some specialized facilities like sanatorium and all that. Second, it's of course about the school curriculum, the educational program. Of course there are many discussions because different countries resolve that matter in a different way. But still Baltic countries do it by either having mixed classes with our children or their separate schools. We have visited a separate gymnasium, big gymnasium, Ukrainian gymnasium in Riga. It's nice to see many of our children learning both Latvian and English, and also in Estonia, for example, in Tallinn now Ukrainian school is being opened now, and there are lots of preparations for that. Clearly, there are healthcare matters which are among the most difficult ones, because clearly the public budgets of those countries have undertaken huge responsibility, a huge load. They should be relieved from that load. But still, I have even been told by the Ministry of Health that often family doctors accept Ukrainians as first priority even before their citizens. Ukraine is joining the EU. How can we help our partners in those advocacy activities and that advocacy they are carrying out now? First of all, we have to state that Ukraine and the Ukrainians have been ready since long ago. We have been Europeans for a long time. Every day we prove it with our blood, with our attitude towards not only defense of our country, but defense of the whole Europe, that we have been ready for the European Union since long ago. We absolutely understand that if we are provided that candidacy status on the 25th of June, then the program of implementation of all those step-by-step activities is a long program we have to implement. And the main thing we discussed in all those meetings was this: all state institutions, governmental institutions, have been working in Ukraine and implementing that institutional function. Dear colleagues, you are welcome with your questions. Please speak into the microphone. I am from Ukraine Forum. Ukraine Forum, Vitaly Golod from Ukraine Forum. I have several questions, but the hottest one is this. There has been information that Mr. Volodin stated that the State Duma of Russian Federation is going to prohibit the exchange of those defenders of Mariupol garrison. If you have such information, how would the leadership of the Verkhovna Rada respond to those news? And my second question is about your contacts with your colleagues, with female parliament members. You appeal to them. How is this dialogue developing? And my third question is about the Verkhovna Rada's plans for this week, about any international guests you may be going to receive, any relevant draft laws you're going to consider. Thank you for your questions. First of all, your first question is very difficult. I would not like to interfere. I would not like to comment on that. I am not fully aware of that situation. We can only use information from open sources, and I think that better comments on all those events about our defenders from Azovstal could be provided by those respective ministers or other specialists, somebody from general staff in charge of that. Second, of course, we are glad, and we have to state that Ukraine does not leave its people alone. We will be glad to see any progress in that issue. And we understand that, you know, military issues are in that political aspect also, and those provocative statements do not come from nowhere. It's about emotional statements also, emotional attempts to push us towards some emotional wrong actions. But I hope that our military, our defenders completely understand what's going on, and they will make every effort to get all our people, men and women, from there, released from there, to have them alive and healthy. And you know, you understand that all those provocative attempts are always mirroring that misinformation. You see, we just visited Baltic countries with our delegation, and before that we visited Poland, and we are talking a lot about humanitarian issues which should be raised, but because we have to understand how our Ukrainians live outside Ukraine when they are forced to flee from this war to protect the life of their children, first of all. And we saw that the Vice Speaker of the Russian Duma visited our occupied Kherson, and she dares making some statements there how she will care about her people. So, you know, it's always some mirroring of those processes, and it's about that nihilism of Russian Federation. Any more questions? No more questions? Thank you. We had Olena Kondratiuk with us, Deputy Chairman of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. Thank you for being with us. And I'd like to remind you that at 2:30 p.m. we will have Gana Maler, Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine, and Serhiy Sobko, Chief of Staff of the Territorial Defense. We will discuss situation on the front. Stay with us.